Joining us now on set is Brandon Bradley, who led BYU in tackles in 2009 in that win against Utah. Brandon, I know that
What's
was
up, B?
a
How you doing?
tremendous win.
I'm good.
And it's great to have those positive vibes from that game within you here with us on set today. So thank you for joining us to help us exercise the demons.
No problem. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys.
We're getting 3 members of the 09 team on. We just had Max on.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
The 09 team to try and summon a win, right?
That's a good plan.
Right?
That's a great plan.
Should we still have Dennis on or no?
He might be afraid to come since I've been up here. He's a little nervous.
He can't top this?
Nah, he can't. He can't.
Describe to us what that game meant to you guys at the time, and then what you feel now that that's the last win. Like, it's pathetic, right? But you guys were the last guys to do it.
Well, it feels good to be able to say that, you know, and I try to bring it up as much as I can.
I wish it wasn't true.
I agree.
Right.
I do. I wish it wasn't true. It meant a lot to us. I feel like this game itself, no matter the year, no matter what the past has shown, it's always an exciting game, and it always means a lot to programs. So getting a W in this game is important. You know, it plays a big part being the first game of the season to possibly how the rest of the season turns out. So
now, for the record, I don't think you should ever have recorded a loss against Utah in your BYU career because your knee was down in 2010, Brandon.
There's
it was
no
down.
question.
it was true. I was down.
There's no question.
Knee, hip, thigh, elbow.
How much
I was down.
We only needed one of those.
I only needed one, but I had a couple of them.
Should be a 7-game losing streak. Dang it.
Maybe I should just went down. I was pretty determined to score.
You had seen Gennaro Guilford in 01 try and house one, even though he should have gone down too. And that was the issue, right?
That was. He rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
You be the judge, those watching at home. Was Brandon Bradley's knee down in 2010?
No. This isn't a discussion. Our audience agrees his knee was down, right?
Down.
Come on.
Down.
Come on.
Down.
Andrew George blocking. Nice.
Down.
Yeah, it's great.
All right. What is today like? Game day against Utah as a BYU player.
I feel like for most players, it's butterflies. There's always some nervousness, excitement, a lot of emotions. And you can't help but wonder what the outcome would be. I don't think you can avoid that as much as you're told not to, but it plays and plays and plays. And I think for most of those players, they think, you know, what's going to be my role in today's game? You know, what happens if this happens? Will I have the opportunity to leave my mark on the game? So it's just a lot going through your head, on top of it being the rivalry.
How do you keep it simple where you have to do your job yet? This means so much to so many people. This is a packed house, and it really matters.
I think when the game starts and you're on the field, you have to forget everything, right?
Did you when the game started?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely. You have to forget about the fans. You have to forget about what's been said in the media. You have to forget about what may be riding on this game, and you just got to play the game of football. You prepared for weeks, right? You've watched film. You've had walkthroughs. You've done everything. Now it's time to play the game, and you just have to block everything else out and play the game. Once you get in between those white lines, it's game on.
Is that easy once you get out there, or is it hard? Did you have to try to do that, or did it just
I think it
come to you?
depends on the person. For me, it was easy. You know, I grew up in the South where football is big, and people talk, and people yell, and people scream, so you kind of get accustomed to it. But if that setting is not familiar to you, it can be difficult to learn how to block it out. But for me, it was cool.
Brandon, you understand rivalries better than most. I mean, you mentioned you grew up in the South. Florida, you know Florida State, what that's all about. SEC rivalries.
Miami and the whole deal.
Right.
Holy cow. Now
Right.
BYU,
The actual
Utah.
U. Yeah.
Right.
In your mind, having been around the BYU-Utah rivalry for so long now, how does this rivalry stack up against some of the more severe rivalries across the country?
I think people would be surprised how intense the BYU-Utah rivalry is in comparison to others. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of history, religious history.
It's unique that
Yeah,
way.
it is.
There's
It
no
is
other
unique
rivalry
that
where
way.
religion plays a role.
Right, and that
Yeah.
plays a part in it, and it can get pretty intense, you know, between the two sides. And I think a lot of people who haven't experienced it won't see it that way. They just think, it's BYU, it's Utah. Whoop-de-doo, you know, same team,
It
same
has a
state.
great nickname,
You're
though.
right.
One that is not sanctioned by
Right.
BYU. They don't want to call it that, but people know it as The Holy War.
The Holy War.
Which is really interesting, right?
Right. But I think it ranks up there pretty high, honestly.
Yeah. Let's talk about the secondary, your specialty.
Okay.
BYU's got Austin Lee coming back. Dankon Wolaku is now a cornerback. Some big injuries. We don't know when they'll come back with Troy Warner and Chris Wilcox. How would you evaluate that group for BYU?
I like them. I've been around most of them quite a bit, and I see a desire to be great, right? They all want to be great. They all are willing to put in the work to be the best that they can be, which is valuable. In that position itself, at BYU, it's hard to find those guys that have all those qualities and that can excel on the football field. So I'm excited about them, even though there may be a few injuries here and there. The nucleus, Diane, Austin, D-Lo, I think there's a good group that can stand out and make some plays for us if everyone's locked in together. So.
Who are some of those younger guys who may have an impact, who we saw a little bit last year, like you mentioned D'Angelo Mandel and Isaiah Heron and maybe even George Udo and Dimitri Gallo and those guys?
Right. D-Lo, most definitely. Isaiah, I think, is going to have to mature quite a bit this year. He's going to need to be in the rotation. I think Shawan Willis will have opportunity to be on the field.
Jamal Willis' son.
Yeah, Jamal Willis' son as well. And Gallo, I didn't get to see him much during fall.
Kind of came late in the game,
right? But I'm excited to see him. From what I hear, I think he has a lot of qualities that will be beneficial for our secondary and for our team. So I'm just excited to see those guys get in the line of fire and see how they perform.
Former BYU defensive back Brandon Bradley with us on BYU Sports Nation led the Cougars with 11 tackles during the last victory BYU had against Utah in 2009. What kind of game do you expect or game plan do you expect from the BYU defense overall? Because I'm getting the impression, having listened to Elisa Tuiaki on Coordinator's Corner and having some conversations with the coaches, this is kind of going to be a bend, don't break approach from BYU tonight against Tyler Huntley and Zach Moss.
Right. I kind of agree with that approach. Utah's never had a great offense where they'll drive, and score, right? I think with that approach, you put them in a position that they have to be flawless in order to put points on the board. You contain all the big plays and force them to be perfect, to make completion after completion, first down after first down. I think you give yourself a pretty good chance to win this game by putting the pressure on their offense to score. A lot of offenses can't do that. They want to score quick, right? They end up getting behind the chains. It's third down. Now we're playing. So I think it's a good approach if that's the approach that he ends up taking.
Brandon, as we say goodbye to you, do you quickly have a favorite memory from this rivalry game?
That's hard. There's so many memories. It's such a fun game. But obviously, I would have to be biased and say the win in 2009.
Sure.
Right? Intense game, fun game. Came down to the wire. We walked away with a W. So I don't know if you can have a better memory than that.
It was a great day. It was a great day.
Great to talk to you, man.
Anytime. Glad to be here,
Okay,
fellas.
thanks, B.